All right, today we're going to take a totally fresh look at one of the most famous ancient teachings on the planet, the Four Noble Truths. But here's the twist. We're going to do it by skipping past centuries of translation and going right back to the original Pali language. And in doing that, we're going to uncover a meaning that's way more practical, more mechanical, and honestly probably a lot more useful than anything you've heard before.
Okay, so this is the version most of us have heard, right? It sounds heavy, kind of pessimistic even. And this translation, which comes straight from ancient texts like the Saccavibhaṅgasutta, has really shaped how the Western world thinks about this whole teaching. It pretty much paints a picture of life as this big ordeal you just have to get through.
But here's the question, the one that changes everything. What if that single word, suffering, translated thousands of years ago, just kind of sent our understanding down a slightly wrong path? What if the original point wasn't some deep philosophical statement about pain, but more like a practical, nuts and bolts diagnosis of a mechanical problem?
So how do we find out? Well, we're going to use this really cool two-step process. First, we'll look at the standard, textbook Pali to English dictionary definition. But then, we're going to go a level deeper. We'll use an ancient linguistic tool called Naruti, which is all about breaking words down to their absolute roots to get to their original practical meaning.
So the whole thing hinges on this one single word, dukkha. Now, the standard translation gives us words you'd expect, like suffering, stress, maybe unsatisfactoriness. But when we put on that Naruti lens and look at its roots, we get a totally different picture. We get an image of a faulty axle, or to put it more simply, misalignment.
Okay, so let's really dive into that. What in the world does it mean to say that life isn't about suffering, but about misalignment? Well, this one little shift takes us from some vague, heavy feeling of dread to a very specific and maybe even solvable engineering problem.
And this is where it gets really cool. You can see exactly where that meaning comes from. The ancient word dukkha is literally a combination of two parts. You've got du, which means bad or difficult, and then you have ka, which, and this is amazing, literally means the hole in the hub of a wheel where the axle goes. So dukkha is describing a wheel that's just not sitting right on its axle. It's off-center. It's going to wobble.
So think about what this means. The fundamental problem isn't that life is just bad or tragic. It's that our experience of it feels like a wobbly, bumpy, and super inefficient ride. See, the problem isn't the road itself, it's the alignment of the wheel. It's a structural issue, not just an emotional one.
And once you see it this way, that classic list from the text, it suddenly clicks. These aren't just different types of suffering. No, they're the symptoms of the wobble. They are the friction, the bumps, the stress you feel when things aren't running smoothly. That feeling of not getting what you want, that's just the jolt of your misaligned wheel hitting a pothole in the road.
Okay, so if our lives are like this wobbly wheel, what's the deal? What's the engine making it spin all over the place? Let's move on to the second truth, because it builds perfectly on this whole mechanical metaphor.
Well, the text points to a single cause, a word called tanha. Now, it often gets translated as craving, and that's not wrong, but the root meaning is even more primal, more visceral. It's thirst. And I mean real thirst, Not just a casual want, but that deep, biological, all-consuming drive you feel when you're truly dehydrated.
So this thirst, this unquenchable drive, that's the real engine behind our misalignment. It's the constant pushing and pulling and grasping that keeps the wheel from ever just finding its natural center and spinning smoothly. It's the frantic energy that keeps the wobble going. What's really fascinating is that the original text doesn't just leave it there. It actually breaks this thirst down into 3 different flavors, all of which keep that wheel spinning off kilter. First, there's the thirst for pleasant sensations, the drive to just feel good. Then there's the thirst for existence. That's the drive to become more, to be seen, to leave a mark. And then, kind of paradoxically, there's even a thirst for non-existence, that urge to escape, to check out, to just disappear. But here's the best part. This ancient teaching isn't just about diagnosing the problem. That's only half the story. The other half is basically a detailed, super practical engineering blueprint for how to fix the wobble and get that wheel centered again. The third truth is, well, it's just simple logic, really. If that frantic thirst is what's driving the wobble, then the fix is to stop the thirst. It's about letting the engine idle. Because when you stop all that constant pushing and pulling, the wheel finally has a chance to settle, find its true center, and come to a smooth, balanced rest. So, how do we actually do this? The fourth truth gives us the how, and it's not some magic pill.
It's a comprehensive 8-part toolkit for you to perform this whole realignment yourself.
And just look at how this whole path transforms when you see it through this engineering lens. This isn't a list of moral rules, it's a set of practical tools. You need the right view, that's your compass, so you know which way you're even headed. Right resolve, that's your blueprint. Speech and action are about doing skillful, clean work. Mindfulness, that's like your awareness gauge, telling you when you're drifting off center. And concentration is the focused beam that lets you make those tiny, precise adjustments to get back on track.
Okay, let's bring this all home. Let's just look at how this new translation, based on those original Pali roots, completely reframes this ancient wisdom. It shifts it from a philosophy about suffering into a practical guide for skillful living.
So look at this. On one side, you've got the common translation. Life is suffering, it's caused by craving, but hey, you can end it by following the path. It's all about ending a negative. But on the other side, you have this mechanical view. There is a misalignment in life, it's driven by thirst, but you can achieve alignment by using this 8-part toolkit. See the difference? It's all about building a positive.
So the crucial takeaway is this. This teaching might not be about escaping a life of pain at all. It might actually be a profoundly optimistic blueprint for engineering a better experience for yourself. The goal isn't to get off the road of life, but to fix your alignment so you can finally have a smoother, more efficient, and way more graceful ride.
And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. Because this isn't just ancient history, it's a diagnostic tool you can use right now. So, looking at your own work, your relationships, your own mind, where do you feel that friction? Where do you feel the wobble of misalignment? And which one of those 8 tools might just help you find your center again?